Ladies and gentlemen, along with the release of Beyond Light came a new element in the form of stasis. Alongside the introduction of stasis, many expected to see some new stasis weaponry. And while personally I was expecting to see a few different options packing this new elemental type, we did get one stasis weapon in the form of Salvation's Grip. And since you clicked on this video, I'm assuming that you saw the thumbnail and read the title, so you probably already have a good idea as to how I feel about this new exotic. If you want to get your hands on Salvation's Grip though, first finish the Beyond Light campaign, and then complete the Stasis prototype quest, which you can pick up from the Drifter. But I'm gonna spare you any more of a lead up in this review, and explain myself further after we take an objective look at this weapon. But if you do end up finding this video useful, helpful, or enjoyable, please remember to leave it a like and subscribe to the Ironworker Gaming channel. Both are totally free and easy ways for you to show your support. But with that, let's get into the review. Alright, Salvation's Grip is an exotic stasis heavy grenade launcher shooting at 120 rounds per minute with 8 rounds in the magazine. As far as the stats go on this grenade launcher, everything across the board is either average or slightly below average when compared to other 120 RPM grenade launchers. But really, don't read too much into these stats, because this weapon is totally unique in its functionality. This is highlighted in its intrinsic trait Cryo Cannon. Press and hold the fire button to charge the weapon, then release the fire. This weapon's projectile creates stasis crystals and freezes nearby targets. The intrinsic trait is further elaborated on in the exotic perk Flash Freeze. Charging this weapon increases the freeze radius and the amount of stasis crystals created. So what exactly are we talking about here? Well, when you tap the trigger without charging it, you'll get a little baby patch of stasis on impact. But when you hold the trigger down for about 3 or 4 seconds, you'll create a small mountain of stasis crystals on impact. You can shoot these grenades on the ground, you can stick them to the ceiling, or place them on the side of a wall. And while charging the weapon, you do get a blue indicator, so you can precisely place your shots. So pretty much what we're seeing here is the same basic function from this grenade launcher that we get from our Glacier Grenade. But instead of creating a straight line of stasis crystals, this forms a tighter triangular cluster of 3 pillars when fully charged. And obviously enemies that are struck or caught in the freeze will be open to be shattered. And following the general premise of stasis, these crystals can be destroyed to deal damage to nearby enemies. For the damage, there's really nothing to speak of, aside from the fact that it remains consistent with the effects of stasis. And keep in mind that damage in PvE is relative to your power level and the enemy's power level, but we're seeing around 4,000 points of damage when a frozen target breaks free from the effect. And then we're scoring about 2,500 points of damage for each close range shatter from a stasis crystal, which, as you can see, are pretty much the exact same numbers we're getting from a Glacier Grenade. So let's move on and figure out why we may or may not want to use Salvation's Grip. For the performance of this weapon, let me just start out by saying I understand the direction they're trying to take with Salvation's Grip. This is purely a utility weapon, built to further expand on the power of the Stasis subclass. This basically just gives you more access and more uptime, with the ability to freeze targets and reap the passive benefits of the subclass. For some pros, the aiming point that you get when charging this weapon is very nice for properly placing your crystals. And while it basically functions in the same manner as the Glacier Grenade, I find it to be more user-friendly since we're creating a triangular cluster rather than that straight thin line. Because of this, it also does a better job at concentrating the damage from shattered crystals. And it's pretty plain to see that the more we build into and further upgrade our stasis subclasses, the more potent Salvation's Grip has the potential to become. But this weapon just feels very niche, and I'm not 100% sure that we've even seen the niche that it effectively fills. Now, I'm all for unique support weapons, or unique weapons in general. Tractor Cannon was cool because you could debuff a target for your teammates. Divinity could hold a sustain debuff. Witherhorde and Anarchy can deal damage over time while you unload on a target with an alternate weapon. But Salvation's Grip at times just feels a little unnecessary. I mean, I can toy around with this Minotaur, freezing them, shattering them, and letting the stasis crystals do their thing. Or I could just walk into the room with Xenophage and end the fight in under 5 seconds. Which more or less kind of ties right into my next point. You're giving up a lot by running this weapon. You're sacrificing your heavy slot and your exotic slot to run a utility tool. And I mean, generally speaking, in Destiny, when are you pulling out your heavy weapon? Usually when you need big single target damage like right now. And that is exactly what Salvation's Grip does not deliver on. It just doesn't seem to fit into the way that many encounters are designed in Destiny. I mean, damage. The focus has always been on damage. Get as much of it out there as quickly as you possibly can. And yes, freezing a boss or a mini-boss can serve as a nice interrupt, but they usually waltz right out of that effect so quick it just doesn't seem worth it. And it's doing pretty minimal damage compared to other weapons that we're used to running in our heavy slot. Now you can up the damage from stasis as a whole with the Whisper of Fissure's Fragment, and this does help. Or you can boost your other weapons damage with the Whisper of Hedron's Fragment, which also could be quite useful. But I really don't think either one of those are quite getting us to where we want to be. And if we really need access to these fragments to push Salvation's Grip towards viability, that means that this is basically a stasis subclass only weapon. There's just no reason that I can think of at least to run a light-based subclass with this thing. Another scenario that I was thinking about also was if you're running an activity with a fire team, and you decide you're going to be the Salvation's Grip guy, and your teammates are going to combine all of those crystals you're making with their fragments to boost their output. And I thought, well, first, that means they're all going to need to be running a stasis subclass also. So right off the bat, you're losing out on some big damage dealing super potential. Because while these stasis supers are good and effective, big single target damage kind of isn't their strong suit. But also, if your full fire team is running a stasis subclass, I'm really not seeing a stasis shortage in your future. I mean, even when running strikes with randoms, enemies are constantly frozen and there are stasis crystals popping up everywhere. So, is it necessary to give up your heavy slot to put even more stasis on the field? Not that I can see personally. As a defensive tool, I suppose it does okay, but it's a process to swap to this weapon, charge it, aim it, and shoot it. So in a panic situation, it's really not a great option. The Glacier Grenade serves this purpose much better, simply because it can be deployed immediately. And then utility-wise, up to this point, I've never really seen a need to seal off a spawn point or hallway to temporarily keep enemies out of the fight. And I can't think of a practical purpose for sticking temporary platforms to walls. So here again, you have to ask yourself, does this utility warrant the use of your heavy slot? And one more small annoyance before I close this section out. The charge cancels when I double jump. I am playing a Warlock, and I'm assuming this goes for Titans as well. Not really sure about Hunters because your jump is functionally different. But I definitely mutter some choice words to myself every time I charge the gun up, go airborne, and release the trigger just to see nothing happen. So, yeah, I kind of dumped on Salvation's Grip pretty hard there. And it's not because I don't like the weapon, because I do think it is fun to use. And if this weapon was not in the heavy slot, I think I would be singing its praises. But unfortunately it is, and currently I just can't seem to find a place where it really fits. With that being said though, I'm definitely going to leave the door open for this exotic. Maybe when the raid releases, there's going to be some jumping puzzle in there that you can make short work out of by using Salvation's Grip. Or perhaps future content and encounters could be designed to where it can really have a chance to shine and show what it could do. Currently though, the benefits of equipping Salvation's Grip just don't seem to justify what you're giving up by setting aside a hard-hitting heavy weapon to use a weapon that is solely based around utility. But since you made it to this point in the video, if you did enjoy it, please remember to leave it a like. And consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to catch more Beyond Light content from me in the very near future. If you'd like to catch me live, I do occasionally stream on Twitch. I know I've been slacking there a little lately, but I've been pretty swamped on the YouTube side of things with all the Beyond Light content I've been trying to cover. But if you'd like, head over there, give Ironworker814 a follow, and you can get notified whenever I hop on. If you'd like to contact me, the best way to do so is simply to comment down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. And with all that being said, I'd like to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this weapon review. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.